Oh, I don't know what this final episode is going to be because I know they had to do some massive changes to it just to incorporate all of the external problems we have.
Sure.
I know that what they had planned for the final episode was extraordinary.
Yeah.
And I was really looking forward to seeing how the fans reacted to that. It may still be the same thing. I don't know. I haven't seen the script yet, but
Yeah.
I know that a lot of plans have shifted since the pandemic really took hold in this country.
Welcome to the Lone Star Play Podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Scott Armstrong. Join me and a famous guest every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We discuss their career, life, food, Texas, and everything in between. Let's get started. All right, guys, welcome to another show. I'm your host, as always, Patrick. Okay, so the guest today, great guest today, Jim Beaver. Okay, I just love saying that name. But this guy is an amazing actor. I mean, if you don't know the name right off the bat, Google him, okay? Oh, well, listen to this podcast while you Google it. Why did I say Google it? I don't know. It's just my reaction to the first thing. But, obviously listen to the podcast. But, find out more about this guy. He's been in everything. He's an amazing guy. Starred in, some great shows, more specifically Supernatural. Okay? That's where a lot of people know him. And Deadwood, hello, Breaking Bad. I get the list goes on of the amazing shows. Justified. It's just gonna keep popping out, right? I'm gonna literally just like Tourette's, just keep interrupting myself saying the shows he's been on. He was in Turner and Hooch. See, I just did it again. It's a great scene in Turner and Hooch. Great scene on Home Improvement. Remember that show from the 90s? Gosh, just this really funny bit. Literally, the guy's had the most amazing career, and the stuff he did on Deadwood and, of course, Supernatural, and the last season's coming up. So we really got into that conversation a lot. It was a really great conversation. This is a down-to-earth Texan, like all Texans. Really great guy. We talk a little bit about Texas and his career and, Supernatural, and just some really great conversations. He is just a humble, down-to-earth guy, and I can see why everybody loves him. I mean, I was a fan. I'm even more a fan now. And I just really, really enjoyed this conversation. I know you guys are too. So, sit back, enjoy this, beautiful dialogue between two beautiful men. All right. And again, as always, don't forget, find us on social media online, follow us, check us out, go to Texas Real Food. Really simple. We're you name the social media, we're on there, and you'll find the podcast. And if you have a podcast app, just search The Lone Star Plate. You'll find us there. You can go to our website, thelone-star-plate.com, find all the info as well. And and leave us a review if you can. Okay, please, if that's possible, leave us a review. Go on Apple. Leave us a review. Tell us how much you love me. Okay, that's basically what I'm doing this for. So I'm kidding. Do it for the podcast. So there's a great team behind this. A lot of people that work on this. Maybe I'm the only face or the only voice you hear, but the truth is there's a lot of people that make this happen. And, we got a great team. And when they see those things, that they get to feel a little joy, right? Because me saying, hey, good job, it just starts to get old after a while. People get tired of me. So anyway, let's get back to Jim. Great show. Let's enjoy it. Ladies and gentlemen, Jim Beaver.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
As you can see, the Texas flag here. I was looking up. You're from Irving. I grew up in that area as well, in the Grapevine, like Euless, that area.
Yeah, my dad used to preach at a church in Grapevine.
Oh, right on. Wow.
So, yeah, my neck of the woods.
Yeah, totally. Your neck of the woods. But you weren't born in Texas, though, right? Neither was I, but I still consider myself a Texan just because I sort of went to school there, but then moved away after high school. That seems like sort of your situation as well.
Well, I was born in Wyoming, but I was only there about 6 months, and my parents came back to Texas. So
yeah,
I'm apparent according to some website, I'm the most famous actor from Wyoming, but you know, there's probably only one of us. So
I love those.
Texas, I'm in a little more competition.
Yeah. You still have family in that area in Irving?
I've got extended family in Texas. My immediate family has all left the state, but uh, that was primarily, they were on the lam, and so had to get across the river. Um, no, they. It's kind of strange now because when I go back, it's usually on business instead of to see family, and it's a little weird to go back and not have anybody there. Have other people living in my house. So, uh, but I I really love being a Texan. It's um, uh, while it's great that somebody thinks I'm the most famous actor from Wyoming. Uh, it's with mixed feelings that I hear that because uh, I think of myself all the time as a Texan, and that's because I don't remember anything else. And
Months isn't much time, right? Like that's not much time.
yeah, and it's I've been back to Wyoming. It's cool. It's very cool. But the hospital I was born in, they turned into a parking lot. So I didn't feel the welcome mat was completely out for me. So I have a lot more fun going back to Texas. I still got friends there and a lot of cousins.
Yeah.
And, but uh, I'm getting old enough to where I'm the elder generation in my family, and it's so there's not as many people left there because you know I came from a very big family, and we all kind of scattered to the winds by my generation. So,
That's how
but
my father was too. He was born in St. Louis, but five brothers and sisters, right? But everybody just spread out literally
mhm,
over the state. So
yeah,
same sort of deal. And we ended up in Texas. You know,
ah, ah.
you know.
Well, it ain't the worst place to be.
Not at all. I came
Most
back.
things.
I'm about live in Austin now. I came back. I moved around and traveled and did my thing, and something brought me back to this great state. You know.
Well, if you're going to come back, Austin's pretty good place to come to.
Love it. And you know what's
I,
funny is growing up here, I never really came here to be honest
yeah,
with you. I never, growing up in the Dallas area, I just stayed there mainly. Would
yeah,
travel outside of Texas like a vacation. Why am I going to vacation in Texas? But now that I live in Austin, it's such. I've been here 6 years. I love the city. It's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. I've my great grandparents were from Austin, but I I had very little experience there until I was much older, and my job took me there a number of times. I filmed a few times in Austin, and that's when I really discovered what a great city it was.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
it's
awesome. You
it's
got,
got great food, it's got great music, and it's got traffic.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, those of us that live here, we know that. I live right next to 35. I live off of South Congress, but close to 35.
yeah,
So, 35. I mean, it's just like, it's
well,
like,
all the way up to Dallas.
yeah,
Uh,
right. You're right. All the way up to
yeah,
Dallas. You're right.
somebody didn't plan too well because that road's pretty narrow in places it ought to be pretty broad.
Yeah. The
So,
running joke is like, they've literally been working on it since I was a kid. Like they'll just continue
oh yeah.
perpetually work on 35.
In Dallas, I don't remember 35 ever not having construction. And, I was there for 112 years. So,
Felt like it, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. You've really seen Dallas change because Dallas has,
yeah.
from when I was a kid growing up in the 80s to seeing it now it's a whole nother place. I mean, especially
Yeah.
Irving, you know?
All of it. I went back, I guess a couple of years ago, I went back for some job thing and they put me in a hotel near downtown. And I, uh, I looked out and I saw the street signs and I recognized the street names, but I recognized nothing visually. Uh, I said, this is Ross and Ackerd. No,
Yeah.
it can't be, because everything I ever knew is gone.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I went back for my high school reunion in Fort Worth a few years back, and I couldn't find my high school. It was in the same place, but I couldn't find it because they got rid of a bunch of roads and they put a bunch of new ones in. So
Yeah.
that's it's weird. It's one of the benefits of getting really old. You get to see all the places you ever remembered turn into places you don't remember.
Yeah. That seems to be the American way. You know, I lived in Europe for a while, and what I loved about living in Europe was it was like everything you touched was like so old and had a history, right? Like even
Mm-hmm.
and they just preserve it. You know, it's just
Yeah.
a different way, right? Like my wife's from Spain, and she talks about that. Her father's in carpentry over there, so
Mm-hmm.
she's for some reason interested in it here. So she'll say like, "Man, the way the houses are built here, right? For instance, just they're not built to last. Like we build houses, it's we build things
Yeah.
meant to last a while, and here it's kind of like you said, just what's going to be the next thing for the next generation, which kind of
Yeah.
sad in a way, but
Yeah. Well, there's a homogenation going on.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
every place is starting to look an awful lot like every other place. And,
Yeah.
in Europe, not so much. I mean, every place in Italy looks like Italy, but Italy doesn't look like Sweden,
Yeah.
and they ain't that far apart.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
yeah. Boy, I love Italy. I love Europe.
Right.
Great place to be.
Great perspective. Right. It just gives a great contrast and perspective. And yeah, I loved living there for sure. To be honest with you, honestly, I'd probably still be there had it not been for the job situation in Spain where my wife
Hmm.
and I were living. We just
Where were you?
we were in Granada at the time when we moved. We had lived in different places, but Granada mainly in the
Hmm.
south there. But yeah, the work was just. I'm in the hospitality industry, so chef for many years. Although at that time I wasn't a chef. At least I wasn't cooking in restaurants at that time. So
Hmm.
and just managing, trying to get it work anywhere really.
Yeah.
Literally, whoever would give me a job, I'd have to travel. I'd have to go like 3 hours or this,
Mhm.
or go like, hey, babe, I'll be gone for 3 months. I guess maybe like an acting gig, but not anywhere as cool, right? Like not anywhere near as cool.
Well, I guess cool's in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah.
So,
And I'm on the beach, like beautiful, views and what. So I never complained as far as that. Being away from my wife, that was really the key. Was like, look, we can't be together, work and that. Let's go to the States.
yeah, yeah,
So we're here, and now COVID, and
yeah,
it's like now we're all suffering.
yeah.
So you as well, right? Your industry is
Oh yeah, it's
kaput.
I finished an episode of Supernatural on March the 12th and came home and haven't done anything since.
Wow.
Although I'm going back to work next week, so
Yeah.
we'll see.
Finally, are you
I'm
excited?
excited to go back to work, but I'm I'm very cautious about this whole thing, and yeah, it makes me a little nervous because I don't know exactly what's going to happen, and of course it's also weird to go back knowing that the familiarity I had over 15 years of working on just this one show is going to be altered in some way that I can't quite guess because whenever I go back to work, it's always been 45 minutes of hugging the entire cast and crew, and I don't think we'll be doing that, and we won't be eating together in the same way. It's going to be strange, and
That,
considering it's the last episode of the series, it's going to be even stranger.
yeah, totally. Just thinking that's the last season, right? Like that stinks. That's
Yeah.
that's
Well, it's there are two certain things in life. One is change, and the other is people not expecting change.
yeah.
So We get fooled every day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, at least you get to go and do it. That's at least a positive. That it's gonna get completed and done.
Hmm.
I mean, the fans. I mean, look, the Supernatural fans. This is a whole phenomenon.
Oh yeah.
Like
Oh yeah.
they're raring for this.
Yeah.
I think 7 episodes. Is that something? I don't
I
know.
think there's 7 left to air.
To air, yeah,
We've got about 1.5 left to shoot,
yeah,
and I don't know what this final episode is going to be because I know they had to do some massive changes to it just to incorporate all of the external problems we have. I
sure,
know that what they had planned for the final episode was extraordinary.
yeah,
And I was really looking forward to seeing how the fans reacted to that. It may still be the same thing. I don't know. I haven't seen a script yet, but
yeah,
I know that a lot of plans have shifted since the pandemic really took hold in this country. And
wow,
fortunately, Canada has been, for the most part, really on top of things. And
yeah,
we shoot in Vancouver, and apparently it's a much safer place to be than some places in the states. And
absolutely.
so we'll see.
Yeah, that's great. Well, that's interesting to hear that the pandemic is affecting things, behind the scenes that then in turn affects the story that we'll then see and most likely will never know about.
Yeah, yeah.
That's interesting.
It's
Yeah.
uh, at some point when it's all over, if there are humongous differences between what the fans see and what was originally planned, I'm sure it'll get talked about. But
Sure.
for now, we're doing. I'm sure everybody who's in charge of this stuff is doing everything they can to make it just as good as it was originally planned.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
so
100% creative,
you
right?
can't finish a show like this with a whimper. You got to go out with a bang.
Absolutely. 15 seasons. I was looking, it'll be the longest running sci-fi series in the history of
Wow,
American television.
wow, that's pretty amazing.
That's amazing. That
Yeah,
is amazing. I was blown away. I literally stopped reading when I read that. I was like, whoa, that is absolutely phenomenal. And to be a part of something like that just has to be,
yeah.
incredible.
It is. It's been life changing for me.
Yeah.
I've traveled the world because of the show.
Wow.
I've made friends in places I never would have dreamed of going, and people who started out as just fans of the show who become dear personal friends. And when you a lot of times the when I would meet fans on this for this show, they uh, they often ask me if I mind the fact that people are kind of crazy about the character I play, and are always wanting to talk to me and meet me, and I always tell them the same thing. I was in this business 35 years before anybody knew who I was, so uh, nobody cared back then. They care now. That's a good thing.
What a great attitude. What a great attitude.
Mhm.
That's why they love you too. That's another reason why people love you is that humility as well.
I'm well known for my humility. It's probably one of my best qualities,
I
of
love
which I have many.
I love that. I was looking up too. You're also a great writer. That was another big thing that looking through your history, seeing that just surprised me. And as far as your work on, being a film historian and working on the film Hollywoodland and George Reeves and this whole, document, man, you have such a diverse, dense background. I mean, I was just totally fascinated by this history. I want to talk a little bit about your writing and
Okay.
it's like to me, kind of how you got into acting in a way. Do,
Yeah.
do you think that's right?
Yeah. In the sense that um, writing opened some doors for me that, as an actor, that probably wouldn't have been open to me otherwise. Uh, I always started out. I mean, in high school, I thought, well, maybe I'll be a writer. But um, by the time I was out of the service and in college, I knew I was going to be an actor, and writing was just something I kind of did on the side for my own amusement. But some of my writing caught some attention, and that
Yeah.
turned into a pretty good writing career for a while.
Yeah.
And then that opened the doors necessary for my acting to take center stage, as it were. Center stage, that's an actor term.
Yeah.
You know.
I love it. No, I love that. I love that. I saw some of the shows you were writing on. It was kind of, just this great jump. And, yeah, you've had this, this phenomenal career. And like you said, to finally sort of feel the, benefits, because I'm sure you work on something, but then the behind the scenes aspect of it, the connection with the fans, right? That engagement with Supernatural is something, just completely different. I find that fascinating as well, because you just have this great body of work. You've been in some just great stuff, man. I mean, I just can't.
Well, that's been the real blessing, not just because lots of people get to work and they get to work on crappy stuff, and nobody remembers it, and they don't enjoy doing it, and they're embarrassed to let people see it. And I haven't really had that problem. I've been embarrassed at what I did sometimes, but not the shows that I was working on.
Yeah.
For the most part, it's just been an absolute scrapple of great shows to work on, and that, of course, helps propel you into more great shows, because the great shows are the ones that coincidentally the real powers that be are watching.
Yeah.
Very comparatively few of them, of the people who do the kind of work I want to be associated with, are spending their time, watching Animal Rescue Kids. Although I did one of those, but it's when you start when you go from a show like Deadwood and Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul and Justified, not blowing my own horn, but these are great shows, and the people in the business talk about them. On the other hand, there's some shows, and Supernatural is really one of those. I'm sort of really well known in certain circles in Omaha, but in the business, even now, somebody will ask me in a business meeting, what have you been working on? Well, I'm still doing Supernatural. Oh, what is that, a new show? I said, no, we're in season 15. Like, really? What? Is that on network TV? Yeah. There's the water cooler shows in Dubuque, and there's the water cooler shows in Beverly Hills, and they're not the same shows. Fortunately, I got a big heaping scoopful of both, and
awesome.
That's a pretty good deal.
That's awesome. What a great way to distinguish the two. I like that, the water cooler, between the two, because you're right, they're just different crowds, I guess. You literally have been in just some of the most amazing shows. And look, and not just recently, not just from like Deadwood on, I'm talking like, I saw this home improvement thing you did. Oh my God, man. I literally remember seeing that when I was, in high school. I remember.
You're a lot older than you look.
I'm 40. I remember when it came out. I remember saying, maybe I was in middle school, I'm not sure, but obviously I watched Home Improvement. I used to love that show, but seeing that scene, I just remember, and I thought, oh my God, you were so great. It's so funny. You've just been a part of some of these, just like you said, just some amazing shows. Yeah. Breaking Bad, Deadwood, of course. This quick fact, I'm sorry to jump around, but I don't want to forget this quick fact about Deadwood, which I loved, is that originally, and tell me if I'm wrong here, correct me if I'm wrong, originally your character only had a last name at the beginning, but as your character grew, you fought to get your first name as Whitney. And honestly, I don't want to spoil it. Can you tell us first of all, if that's right, and the reason behind choosing that name.
Well, um, yeah, the first season, the character was just named Ellsworth.
Yeah.
And at one point, I asked David Milch, the creator, what his last name was. And he said, maybe it's Ellsworth. And I said, okay, then his first name, maybe it's Ellsworth. So he wasn't, I don't think he had decided. And then in the second season, there was a plot reason that they needed my character's full name to be spelled out for the audience. And David gave him a first name, but simultaneously with my acting career, I've been working on this biography of George Reeves, TV's first Superman, for many, 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 many years. And Whitney Ellsworth was the name of the producer of the first TV Superman series. And I was very familiar with that name. And just as my own little private joke or homage, I asked David if he would mind changing the character's first name to Whitney. And he said, sure, fine, go ahead. And that's what they did. So
Love.
I've managed to toe the real Whitney Ellsworth's name a little further down the timeline, and I hope I've done him honor, because I hear he was a great guy.
Oh, you have. I think that's a phenomenal story. I just think it's, it just shows your attention to, what you do, right, and your passion for what you do.
It's that's the thing that has really fed my life, is that I get involved in things largely because I really, really want to. That doesn't mean I have any control over who casts me or what jobs I get.
Yeah.
But it has a little to do with what jobs I turn down. And most of my life is really sort of nicely focused on things that do interest me and mean something to me. And I mean, the Deadwood, for example, people have asked me, well, did you watch the show? And I say, are you kidding? That would have been my favorite show ever, even if I hadn't been on it. And to get to be on it, I mean, that was the greatest experience of my career.
Wow.
And I've had a bunch of experiences that came close. And, they just don't hand out luck that way that often. I got my ups and downs in life, but man, I have struck a gold mine of luck. So,
well, it's luck, but
at least until today, I don't know.
Yeah. Look, I'm sure there's some luck for the opportunity for the at bat, but you're swinging, man. You're an amazing actor. Like,
thank you.
Really, you are. It's.
I just know I know a lot of really amazing actors who can't get a job. So, because it's a business, and it's so many things rely on things other than whether you're good at it.
Sure.
And
sure.
So you can be real good at it and never work. And as we have occasionally seen, you can be real bad at it and work all the time. I hope I'm somewhere in the middle there.
I'd say you're at the top.
Well,
I'm unbiased. I don't know. Personally, so like I'm being for real. It's
okay. Well, I accept the compliment. I appreciate it, and I accept it on behalf of all my betters who can't get a job.
There you go. There you go. Look, if they were in your position, they'd be crushing it like you do. Look, I'm a chef. I work in restaurants. I see the same thing sometimes. There's people that don't get the shot they deserve, and much better chefs. They cook much better food. It's hands down. And there are people that you think, how do they have all these restaurants? They are the worst. It's the worst food ever. And some place that's making amazing food is just struggling and having to close. It makes no sense sometimes. It's just
You know,
how it is, I guess. I hate to say that, but yeah, it's sad. That's why when someone is, deserved and humble and whatever, you lift them up. It's just all it is. You've done some great stuff. It's just that simple, and you keep getting chosen. I mean, I was reading about Guillermo del Toro choosing you, writing a special part for you in Crimson Peak. That's amazing.
I remember the phone call came in. They said, you know, do you want to play the father in this movie for Guillermo del Toro? And I was like, how does he know who I am? And uh, I figured he was probably a Supernatural fan because that's kind of his milieu.
Yeah.
But it turned out he'd seen me on Deadwood and thought that I had what it took to play the character he had in mind. So he wrote for me, and I was shocked. And now I'm getting ready to do another one for him. So
Wow.
it's
What, the Pinocchio?
no, I'm doing Nightmare Alley with Bradley Cooper, and they started that in January and then had to shut down, and they're going to start back up in October, I think, or at least that's when I go back to work.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
it's
jeez.
part of it too is I learned a long time ago that the real secret to being a successful actor doesn't have much to do with acting. It's never, ever, ever, ever holding up production, and never, ever, ever making anybody on the entire staff and crew sorry that you got hired. I try to make myself as amenable as possible. I'm rarely in the position to be nitpicky about how I'm treated, but on the rare occasions I'm not. It's it's like anything else. People work with people that A, they like to work with, and B, that don't give them problems. Well, I can't do a lot about the first, but I can certainly not give them problems. And most of the time, I'm pretty good at that. So
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I agree. There has to be something behind the scenes that makes you rehireable, right? You're easy to work with, good to work. That seems like, yeah.
well, I show up when they tell me to show up, and 9 times out of 10, I know my words,
Yeah.
and um, and I don't spit at the director. So it's uh,
And then you knock out these amazing performances, which make,
well, I mean, look at the writing.
yeah,
The writing. No actor ever wins awards for playing a badly written role. Uh, you can uh, you can be just the best actor ever, and if all you're handed to say is schlock, then nobody's even going to notice you're a good actor most of the time. But if you get handed something that's as brilliant as almost every episode of the shows that you've talked about have been, then it's hard to look bad. It's if you plant your feet and mean what you say, the words carry you 3/4 of the way. And as long as you don't have a high squeaky voice when a deep one's called for, you'll be fine. Oh,
I love that. Well, that's interesting. So it starts with the writing. It starts with
absolutely.
good product, as I would say as a chef. Starts with good product, and then from there, of course, it's going to come out as long as you don't screw it up.
Yeah, you're not going to make much of a salad out of a cabbage you found on the side of the road.
Wow. Okay.
Probably,
Yeah.
unless you're a really good chef.
Yeah. And maybe there are, but that's not the norm, right? I'm sure there's miracles that occur on a set every once in a while from something.
Oh, yeah.
But for the most part, right, you've got to have a nice script, good writing. You're set up. Do you ever get an opportunity as a writer yourself to adjust some of your lines? I know you said that you've worked with so many great people. I'm sure that doesn't come up too often, but has it ever?
Well, first off, because I uh, my first real professional toe in the water was as a writer. Um, I'm I'm very determined to honor the script. I'm not hired to rewrite. I'm
Heard.
hired to interpret what's on the page. Now, that doesn't mean I haven't sometimes had conversations about how easy it is to say a certain line. Sometimes, sometimes writers, especially those who have never tried acting or have never read their own scripts out loud, can write things that are really hard to get your tongue around.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can say to them, could I say this, which is slightly different, but it's a lot easier to say without stumbling over the line.
Yeah.
And usually they're amenable to that. On some shows, Breaking Bad was one, they want it exact down to the commas. And you better pause on the commas. Other shows are, you turn to the director and say, this doesn't feel right in my mouth. Could I say whatever you want, just say it, and they're real easy. It runs the gamut. But once again, as a general rule, my job is to interpret what's on the page, not to change it.
Yeah.
And as a writer, I don't like people making up dialogue to things I've written. I don't mind them coming to me and saying, could I say this instead? And we'll have a conversation about it. But I'm utterly opposed to the idea that the actor now owns the words and can say whatever he wants. That's kind of, if you're doing a movie with Robin Williams, yeah, one wouldn't have expected to stick perfectly to the script with him because you know what he's going to say, and that was part of his magic. But most of the stuff I do doesn't involve anybody ad-libbing, and I find it a little off-putting when somebody decides this would be a good time to make something up. If they haven't run it by, I've had a couple of occasions where people just started saying stuff to me in the middle of a scene that wasn't in the script, and I'm not the world's greatest improviser, and I'm just looking at them going, "Where are we going here? I don't know this." And I suppose somebody with Robin Williams' wit and alertness and quickness could jump in and make magic, but that's not my job in most of these roles. My job isn't to show off how wonderful I am. It's to make these words sound like they came from a real life human being who meant them.
Yeah.
And so, I welcome the chance to work with anybody, but you may get a little stink eye if you start making up lines with me.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love actually, I thought maybe the opposite, but actually makes sense. It's almost like a chef respecting another chef's work, and he wouldn't otherwise. So you as a writer actually respect the lines more if they're right.
I used to wait tables.
Yeah.
And if I would expect to be smacked down pretty hard if I started adding salt and pepper and parsley and rutabaga to somebody's steak dinner that I was handed to deliver.
Yes. Good point.
It's that wasn't my job when I was at TGI Fridays, and it's not my job as an actor. So,
that's a great analogy. Actually, that's a perfect analogy for that. You just bring it to the table.
Yeah, and try not to drop it.
And try not. That's right. Try not to drop it and just bring it to the table. I was interviewing an actress named Kelly Jenrette, and she in. Oh, you know who she is? Okay, so she told me this about acting. She said, because I was talking to her about working with Jeffrey Wright in this new movie she was in on Netflix. And she said, look, this thing that stuck with me, which was KISS. Maybe you've heard that. Just keep it simple, stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that's used? You've heard used as well?
Well, yeah, I've heard it. I've heard it in a lot of applications. It's in acting, it's a pretty good rule because both in terms of the actual work on the stage or the set, and in terms of your career. A lot of young actors come in and without a lot of experience outside of high school or college, and uh, they're convinced that they can play anything, and maybe they can, uh, but they may not always cement themselves in people's minds by playing all over the map in different kinds of roles. I'm not saying don't take a role that's offered to you, uh, but the other thing is, a lot of times young actors come in and figure they've got to show you their entire bag of tricks in this one scene, even if they've only got two lines. And uh, and it's usually there's usually somebody on the set that will say, hey, you don't have to give us everything. Just give us this guy at this moment.
Yeah.
And um, uh, you know, keep
That
the
makes
sense
sense.
of group. It's a good byword for almost any endeavor.
Yeah, I guess now I'm realizing. I guess it's used for other stuff. I never heard it before.
Oh yeah,
I've been living under a rock or something. I don't know. There's got that how sometimes in life you're supposed to know something, you don't know it, and you're just like, damn, how do I not know this at my age? Like,
it happens to me every day.
good. I don't feel alone. That makes me happy. That's good. Yeah. Well, look, another thing I was gonna talk to you about was I wrote it down. I got my notes here. Was you were in the Marines?
Yeah, sometime back.
Yeah, I think
I'm
that's
a, I'm a little long haired and long in the tooth for it now, but yeah, that was not that terribly long ago, about 52 years ago.
But you went to
Uh,
Vietnam, right? You actually went to
yeah, I was in Vietnam from 1970 to 71,
Vietnam.
and
Insane.
yeah, it was fun. It was
That
well, it was
description, I think.
what are you going to say? I came out of it with all my fingers and toes, and without too much of what would be identified as trauma, and I'm grateful for that. It was not the same for a lot of my comrades,
Yeah.
and uh, I I think I get a lot of respect from people when they hear that I was there, but I think that respect is more uh, rightly directed at the people who um, uh, saw and suffered more. Um, I had I had a comparatively easy time while I was there. Didn't get shot at too much. Didn't shoot back too much. Just enough to know that I'd rather be somewhere else. Um, and,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it was an eye-opening experience in a lot of ways, and uh,
Do
I
you
feel
use it for your
fortunate to have gone through it.
do you use it for your acting sometimes? Does that ever come into play?
It's interesting because I don't know. I've probably done about three or four hundred different productions, meaning different episodes of a single series and different movies. You add them all up by single production, it's probably three or four hundred in there. And I think I've only played a military guy once. And
Was that the In Country movie with Bruce Willis?
well, that guy was a veteran, so I guess he counts. But no, I was thinking of a movie called The Court Martial of Jackie Robinson. And I played an Army officer in that. And out of everything I've done, that I can't remember anything else I ever played a uniformed military guy in, which always kind of bugged me because I thought I got a certain amount of resources here that I'd love to be able to use, but um, it's never really come up. And then when it did come up, I was doing playing an Army major in Court Martial of Jackie Robinson, and at one point I had to return a salute to Andre Brower, who was playing Jackie Robinson, and we had the famous military technical advisor Dale Dye was on the set, and so Andre came up, gave me a salute, and I popped one like that, And they cut, and Dale came over and he said, "Hey, look, Marine, this character you're playing, he's in the Army. Slop it up." So even though I had been, beaten soundly about the head and shoulders many times for not getting that perfect, in that movie, I kind of go like that. And then, of course, all my Marine friends are going, "What happened to you? What kind of sloppy salute was that?"
He's in the Army. They say he's in the
Army. You're lucky you got his hand up there.
I love that still like exists, that friendly rivalry between the services.
I mean, my dad was in the Army. I give him credit, but that was the direction I got.
That is hilarious. I love that. Well, I'm sure at some point down the line honestly, I'm gonna say, I was about to say, I'm sure at some point down the line you'll play a military officer. But just thinking, you've had such an amazing career. You're right. I can't believe you haven't played.
Well, I've played dozens and dozens of police detectives.
Cops, yeah, totally.
But last year was the first time I ever played a uniform cop. I played sheriffs in uniform, but I never played a beat cop until last year. And it kind of surprises me, because when I very first started out in my career, I got lots of cops, but just not uniform cops. Lots of detectives. Yeah. And I think it was partly because I just had a mustache, and everybody thought all cops had mustaches.
Totally.
In fact, I was doing when I was doing the series Reasonable Doubts with Mark Harmon.
Yeah.
We were shooting an episode in it took place in a homicide bureau of a police department. And while we were waiting around for them to set the lights, I called Mark over to this picture that was on the wall. They had decorated the place like a real police station. And I said, "Look at this picture." It was like the entire squad or unit of that police precinct in a portrait of the unit. I said, "Look at this picture. You notice anything unusual about that?" And he looked at it. There's like 45 guys in the picture, and he goes, "No, not really." I said, "Every single one of them has a mustache." And I said, I think that's what people think cops ought to look like."
Yes.
And because I've always had a mustache since the Marines, I tended apparently to get a lot of cop parts. But so I don't dare shave it off, because I'll never work again.
You'll be the perp.
Yeah.
If you shave it off, that is so funny.
Well, going back to what you were saying about using Vietnam in my as a resource in my acting work, the fact is, being a Vietnam veteran was what got me really started in the business, not as an actor, but as a writer. Now, I had written a play that was very well received, which got me a big agent. But then what happened once I had that agent was I kept getting called in to write for shows about Vietnam, because it was the mid-late 80s, and they were just starting to create movies and programs about the war. And so they were looking for vets who could write authentically about it. And so I started getting, anytime there was a Vietnam project, I would get called and say, "Do you want to write for us?" And so I wrote a number of those things, based not always on my own experience, but being able to talk the talk, and know the vernacular, and know certain things that a civilian wouldn't have known, was very valuable to me. And it got me, it just catapulted me into something I had never been before, and that was a person who made a living. And so I wrote for a while, and then I got cast as a Vietnam vet in Country for Norman Jewison, and Um, and that turned my acting career on like a light switch. And I never really went back to the writing because it wasn't really what I wanted to do in the first place.
Yeah.
I've always said that going to Vietnam was a great career move for me, um, and it was. I mean, coming back from Vietnam was an even better career move. So
Yeah, coming back, I think, was the best career move. I think that's number one. Yeah, yeah,
uh,
making your way back. God, that's interesting. That's interesting. So you really have no desire, maybe, to go back to writing, or
well, I still write, but I like writing for me. I like writing what I want to write, and writing for television, while it was very lucrative and often a great deal of fun, it was also just the nature of writing for television is usually writing for somebody else's idea.
yeah,
Um, you get hired on a show like, well, let's say like Supernatural. I haven't written for Supernatural, but that show existed as a concept, as a set of characters before I came along as an actor, and certainly before I would have come along as a writer. If I had been chosen or asked or been asked to write for the show, I would have been writing characters that already existed, who had a plot line and a history and a story that somebody else had created.
yeah,
And then you're just kind of trying to match. You're trying to write something that fits somebody else's concept. And it's great, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. Uh, I much prefer writing things that I thought up to write. And uh, but of course, when I started writing for television, a lot of what was out there for a very brief window was anthology shows. And so I was writing for Alfred Hitchcock and an HBO show called Vietnam War Story, where each episode was a separate entity. It didn't have recurring characters, and so I could write original stuff. I could write stuff that there wasn't any. I didn't have to base it on anybody. I didn't have to remember. Oh no, you can't write that. He got married 2 years ago, and his wife died, so you can't write about his wife. I didn't have to worry about any of that. It was all discrete in one package, and that was kind of fun. But that anthology television stuff didn't last very long.
yeah.
And there's some of it back now, but it's you know the fact is uh, I make very good use of my time as an actor, and if I'm going to write, which I find much harder, I'm going to do it for something that uh, gives me a kick, whether it's going to give anybody else a kick or not. And I
Love it.
don't have to worry about somebody coming in and looking at my script and saying, a Martian wouldn't say that. Uh, so
Giving you notes and wanting to change something that's
yeah,
just creative to for yourself.
yeah. So uh, if somebody, I did at one point about season 7 of Supernatural think, I've been on the show a long time now. Um, I know it really well. I know the characters really well. Maybe now would be a good time to write a script for them. I didn't bring it up. I didn't ask them. I just thought I'd write a spec script and see what they thought. And I got about 20 pages into it, and it almost all took place inside my character's house. And it was about 20, 25 pages in, and and then I got a script for the next episode in which they burned down my house. And, and so, okay, well,
This ain't
that story doesn't work anymore. And before I even got a chance to figure out a new way to structure the story, they announced that they were killing me. And at that point, I sort of lost interest in writing for the show. But fortunately, on Supernatural, they can kill you all they want. You still get to be on the show. So
they keep bringing you back, man. You're a fan. I mean, absolutely beloved, by all the fans, man. It's
Well, I
quite
can't help those idiots.
okay.
No, they're great. They treat me wonderfully, and
It's
I
awesome,
really appreciate them,
of
uh,
course.
as deluded as they are.
They probably gotta be right to some extent. Well, we're all a little crazy
Wow,
in our own ways, right?
certainly on my side of the camera, nobody got into this business because they were healthy.
Yeah.
Uh,
That
uh,
is
uh,
funny. They say that about my industry too. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
we're broken people. Is what they say.
Uh, I'm starting to think it's everybody.
Yeah, maybe you're right. It's just every.
Yeah. And they just all say, "Oh, all the guys putting fenders on Chevys are going, oh, we're all broken people." And the guys mixing cement, oh, we're all broken people. And the chefs and the waiters and the bellboys and the actors and you know, uh, pretty much everybody thinks they're broken except the president. And
Yeah.
so
He's
we
the
won't go there.
he's the greatest ever of everything. I was reading his quotes today. Actually, for some reason, I just I've gotten to the point where I just laugh at the stuff he says because I just think it's so unbelievable. It's just so unbelievable some of the stuff he said. And I was reading through his quotes today. I just can't. I mean, they're funny it's just so unbelievable. It's funny, right? It's that sensation of I just can't even believe this stuff. This is
Now, I'm pretty old, and I'm pretty used to um, sentences making sense when they come out of the White House, uh, and um, and so because I'm getting older, it's kind of like when I was just about to leave high school, they came up with something called the new math, and uh, it was just the old math, but it was all repackaged, so it didn't make any sense. And I turn on the news, and I feel like they've just introduced new English
new.
uh, because it's all the same words, but they're not in the same order.
I love that. I love that. I'm gonna steal that. I love that. That is so funny. That is so funny. That's absolutely what's going on. Yeah, it's just it's been crazy. With all the what have you been doing during the pandemic, Jim? I know you said your last filming was March.
March 11th.
Yeah, March 11th. Have you just been writing, maybe just at home eating?
I,
I don't know.
I mentioned this book I've been writing on George Reeves for many, many, many years, and I've been really tearing into that because
Yeah.
the reason it has taken many, many years is largely because of this um, fabulously busy career I got handed acting. And so writing is a lot of hard work and a lot of time, and I don't always have a lot of time.
Yeah.
But suddenly I found myself gifted with 4 months of pretty much nothing. And so I've been writing as much as I can, as fast as I can. Um, I was 28 when I started this book, and I just turned 70. So I need to pick up some speed here.
Chapter 2. Right, I was like,
I don't exactly. I'm pretty sure I don't have another 42 years, but I'm getting close. I'm getting close, and it's coming along. And I know there are a lot of people out there who told me they're waiting for it, and I think maybe they might not have to wait until they're dead. Um, I hope not. Um, but that's been the most productive thing I've been doing, and like everybody else, a lot of Netflix, a lot of movies, a lot of YouTube, and uh, I for the first few weeks in particular, probably the first month and a half of when we all started shutting down and staying home, uh, I would I'd watch television with my wife until 11:30, 12 o'clock, and then I'd get in bed and pull up my phone and get on YouTube and learn all about you know uh, uh, Russian cornmeal making or uh, Bolivian skiing,
yeah.
and or I'd watch every single TV episode Lee Van Cleef ever did, and then it would be 7 o'clock in the morning, and and I'd sleep until 5 in the afternoon. It was a pretty unproductive time, but I suspect it wasn't all that different from what a lot of people were doing.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not.
Now I've got friends who are doctors and nurses, and I absolutely know life is very different for them during this and has been. But for me, denied the ability to act. Well, if I were 30 and this were happening, I'd probably shoot myself because it's all I've ever really dreamed of doing, and to have it denied me would be really painful. It's not as painful now because I've gotten to do an awful lot. I know I'll get to do more.
Yeah.
And I've got other things that interest that keep me busy. So it's I got a good deal here.
Yeah.
I got a great deal here.
Yeah. Great. And you're already going next week, right? I mean, it's already starting.
Yeah, I don't actually start work next week. Because Canada has some really strict rules. I go to Vancouver next week, and I sit in a hotel room by myself without leaving the room for 14 days. And
you got a corn.
And then I get to work. So yeah, so I'll be there. And then the funny thing is, I come home, and about 2.5 weeks later, I go to Toronto, and I sit in a hotel room for 14 days by myself, and then go to work. And I'm going to be sitting there alone in a hotel room a lot longer than I'm going to be working. That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. My idea of heaven is me, a couch, and Turner Classic Movies.
Oh, you're in. You're in. This is like
yeah.
A binge session.
As long as the cable holds out, I'll be good.
Yeah, as long as the cable holds out. Yeah, I guess they have to. This is what I'm hearing, right? This quarantine. Before.
And it's everybody. I know the three leads on the show, Jensen Ackles and Jared Padalecki and Misha Collins. They all had to go sit in a hotel room by themselves for 2 weeks. And I'm sure Bradley Cooper and Kate Blanchett are going to have to do the same thing on Nightmare Alley.
Yeah.
And I suspect those people are all going to make a lot more money doing it than I am. But hey, like I said, Turner Classic Movies and a couch. It's all I need.
Boy, that's easy. That's easy to provide that. That's nothing. That's that's why
maybe some good sushi. But
maybe. Oh, you like sushi?
I love it. I mean, for a guy who didn't know what a bagel was until he was 28, my horizons, my gastronomic horizons have expanded in the last few years. And
glad to hear that.
I was doing the Dallas Shakespeare Festival in '78, and all these great actors from New York would come in every summer and do the festival. And I was a local boy. I was doing supporting parts, but we would go out afterwards. And I remember going to some place with some of these guys from New York and discovering for the first time in my life at 28 what a bagel was. And
that's great.
Because I had not a clue. And now I eat bagels.
I love that.
But I'm old enough that pizza was kind of a weird thing when I was growing up.
Wow.
I probably had pizza 2 or 3 times in my entire first 20 years. It just wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. They were a little slow in Irving, I
guess. Now it's not slow anymore, right?
No. It's a metropolis of its own.
It's a whole right. It's DFW, right? Anybody from there, that's what it's.
Yeah.
It's DFW, and that means Dallas, Fort Worth, Arlington, Irving, right? Grapevine, Hughes, Hearst, Euless, Bedford. I mean, you just start Frisco, Addis. I mean, you just start naming all these towns.
It's 25,000 square miles of concrete.
It's crazy. Oh my. God.
When I was a kid and we were living in Irving and my dad was preaching at the Church of Christ in Grapevine, we drove there 3 times a week, Sunday morning, Sunday evening, Wednesday evenings, and we drove for 25 minutes through the country, through pasture land.
Wow.
That's all that was there.
Wow.
And eventually you'd see a house and you'd know you were almost to Grapevine. And now it's, it looks like Fifth Avenue in New York. It's crazy.
It
But
really is. Yeah. That's
time marches on, as they say.
so that must have been, was that around before the airport, around the same time?
Yeah. In fact, a friend of ours who went to our church in Grapevine sold his farm, and he was a pretty well-to-do guy, but he was a lot more well-to-do after this because he sold his farm and they built DFW Airport on it.
Oh shit!
So, yeah, I'm sure he made a buck.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
it's crazy, and that's not a small airport.
No, I think at least at one time it was the largest by land area in the world. I'm not sure if that's still true, but
it was. So for some reason, I think O'Hare had taken over at some point. For some reason, my mom worked at DFW Airport for like 10 years at the Hyatt Hotel that was there in the 80s.
Oh yeah.
We used to live in Euless, right there by the airport. I mean, right there. Useless. Call it. Useless.
Yeah, I remember when we played Euless in football. The freshman team beat Euless 114-0.
Oh my God! What? That is, I'm embarrassed. Oh,
yeah, that was pretty.
That's useless.
We should have just, said, you guys go on home. It's okay. We don't have to keep playing.
That's a little mean, right? Let's just break this down. That's a little mean. 114. Jesus, once you get past 50, like God,
they were letting the cheerleaders run plays.
The food guy. Hey,
yeah,
you want to run a
hey, third row? You want to block?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, anyway, that was a long time ago. So
crazy.
Yeah, I'm a Truman baby, so I go back a ways.
I love that. Love that.
I'm sure Euless is a powerhouse now.
It doesn't even look like, you wouldn't even recognize it.
No,
you wouldn't even. You wouldn't think this is not Euless at all. I mean, you just wouldn't even recognize it. I don't recognize it at all. It's not. Doesn't even look like the town high.
About all I recognize in that area is my old neighborhood where I grew up. The houses are all pretty much the same. I grew up about a mile as the crow flies from the old Texas Stadium, where the Cowboys played, and about a mile southwest of the stadium was my neighborhood, and it's all pretty much the same. But boy, you go half a mile further west, and it just all starts turning into, Anytown, USA.
That's it. Anytown, USA. You can't tell where one starts and the other one stops. I mean, for sure.
Yeah. And considering how much space Texas has,
right?
You'd think they could put a little, space between the towns. But,
they tried, and then someone just built in there. They just keep building in between, and they got so many. What do you call it for the highways? Right.
Overpasses and underpasses and
it's crazy.
Changes. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's absolutely insane. They just keep getting tall. I'm actually afraid to go on some of them. They're so high. I can't. I'm just like, oh my God, this is insane. I'm a wimp to begin with, but that's
well.
But well, Jim, look, I do want to talk about one more thing here before we go, because this fascinated me. Okay, and you're probably going to laugh about this, but in the show Supernatural, you say you call the boys engines or something. I don't know what you're saying. I don't know what the word is.
Eejits.
Eejits. What is? Let's talk a little bit about what this is. So I'm fascinated by this.
My experience suggests to me that It's a word meaning idiots that kind of came over from the Irish, where idiot is often pronounced Eejit. And a lot of fans asked me if it was my idea to call them that. And as I said earlier, I don't. It's not my job to write this stuff. I just say the words. And I picked up a script one day, and that was in there. And I remember going to the producer or the director or somebody. I said, "Do I have to say this? Because this sounds stupid. This sounds like some made up hick word that that you guys are trying to prove that my character is rural." I just said I don't know. It just rubs me the wrong way. And they said, "Say the line." And so I said the line because one of their names was on the check. And I said the line, and lo and behold, everybody fell in love with it. So now I've said it about 32 million times.
Oh my! Super cut on YouTube. I saw the super cut of it's hilarious.
Did you?
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh wow! I haven't seen that.
Oh gosh, it's hilarious of that.
Somebody did a super cut of one of the words on Deadwood. That was kind of fun.
I saw a lot.
You can't play it on the radio.
Yeah. Oh yeah, not from that show. That's for sure. Hey, but that's more real, in that. But yeah, I found that word so fascinating. I just was like, what is he saying? What does that mean? I can't understand it, but I love it.
Because I mumble.
Yeah.
IDJIT, Eejit.
It put it up on I put my closed captioning on. Right. Okay, I'm gonna see this. I gotta see the word. Maybe I could pronounce it. I speak two languages. I speak Spanish. I'll figure this out. It comes up. I was like, it looked like covfefe, right? It just looked like that's what it reminded me of. It's just like, what is this?
Well, I
love it.
Just like covfefe, somebody with different brain power than mine made that word
up. No, it's perfect. You deliver it so beautifully, which is what caught on. It's almost like it's got this whole new meaning to it.
Yeah,
it means a lot of things now.
Well, it's you're lucky as an actor if you get a catchphrase.
That's right.
And I've been triply lucky on this show because I got a couple of words I say that fans love, and then I've got a phrase that I said in one episode that really took off among the fandom, which was "Family don't end with blood," and it was a great line in the episode, but nobody expected it to become pretty much the catchphrase of the show, and it's ended up being something the fans say about each other and about us, that we are all a big family, and it feels that way.
Yeah.
The only difference is, in a real family, you don't always like everybody.
A real family doesn't love each other all the way. It's not a real family. No.
I'm constantly asked to say that line or to say one of the other catchphrase words, and even the ones I thought were dumb when they handed them to me at first, I don't think are dumb now, because A, some of them say something really cool, and B, anytime anybody says them, they're remembering me, so that's kind of nice.
That's awesome. Are you kidding me? That's great. I don't have any catchphrases. Ain't nobody repeating anything I say. That's for sure. No, I think that's awesome. I love that. It must be weird to have somebody come up and say this, right? Like,
well, it was weirder on Deadwood.
Yeah,
because people would come up and say, "Oh, here, will you take a picture of my baby? Now let me video you calling her a." And some of the actors just look and go, "What? No, I'm not calling your baby that, and I'm sure not doing it on video."
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Jeez, but it's not so bad on Supernatural because most of what I say can be printed
Right, yeah,
in
it can be printed.
Parents Magazine. But
That
I don't know. It's a weird world.
yeah, it's like, I'm just trying to buy oranges, right? You're just like, I'm just trying to like buy some oranges, and I'm having to recite these lines like,
No, man, it's like I said before. I did this job for 35 years before anybody cared.
yeah.
Somebody wants to come up in a supermarket and ask me to call them an idiot. I'm happy to.
That would
Uh,
be kind of fun. I would probably like to be calling people idiots all the time, just everywhere. Just they
I
probably
don't. People say, "Do you use it in your real life?" No, nobody's paying me to use it in real life. Uh, if, uh, if, uh, if I'm saying it on camera, it's because they're paying me to say it on camera.
I like yeah. Hey, every letter.
That's Bobby Singer's word, not mine.
I love that. That's awesome. That is awesome.
But
Wow.
I will dole it out if they ask.
I love it. They're probably proud to be called that, right? They're probably proud to be called an idiot by you. I'm sure.
Well, I can't imagine that, but a few of them need to be called that. But for the most part, no, it's not a term I would throw at them unless they ask for it.
I look. I'm gonna be honest with you. I guarantee you, a fan would love it if they love the show and you call what he called me an idiot, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure they'd be all over it. So
Yeah.
created a whole new word. This whole new word I never heard of. It was great. It's so
Well,
you know.
one of these days I'll retire and you can take it over.
I won't have the same punch. They'll be like, "You're the idiot." They're gonna be like, "I'm the idiot." So well, look, Jim, man, this has been such a great conversation, man. I just can't tell you how much I've enjoyed talking to you, man. I've been such a fan of your work unknowingly. Right? I've just seen you in so much stuff and always respected. You've been in. I love Paul Thomas Anderson movies, and you were in Magnolia. I watched that scene
Yeah.
in Magnolia. It's such a powerful movie.
Yeah.
And
I
it's
need to see
just
that. I love that movie, and I really loved having a chance to be in it.
I can't even imagine. I mean, I just
It's like I say, I look through my resume, and there's a few things I'm not proud of as a show, but for the most part, it's all pretty good stuff, and I got way more than my share of great stuff.
awesome.
And I'm talking about the finished product, not my work in it, but um, to I mean, my first major feature film was directed by Norman Jewison, and it was a beautiful, beautiful piece of work in country. And I got to, one of my next uh, major jobs was in Sister Act with Whoopi Goldberg, and which was a huge hit. And
Shit.
while a lot of my friends who were as talented or more so were doing, little car chase movies and stuff like that, just trying to make enough to pay the rent with, I was getting to work with masters. I mean, um, the people I've gotten to work with who've made me better are, by and large, highly respected uh, uh, people. It's just amazing the opportunities I've been handed, and I appreciate them. I really do.
No, it's awesome. Yeah, you have such a great body of work. Absolutely, it's so great to hear you talk about it like that. To be honest with you, as a fan, uh, it just makes me, love you even more, man. To be honest with you, really excited for anything else that you have coming out because anything, even adaptation. I was watching your clip in adaptation too. It's like, oh my gosh, man, what have you been in? That's amazing.
Look at that stuff. I mean, I
Crazy.
I'm doing scenes with Chris Cooper in the movie he won an Oscar for, uh, and and who else? Nicolas Cage
Nicholas Cage.
and Meryl Streep and Bruce Willis and Sam Elliott and it just goes on and on. The people, Kate Winslet, and it's just amazing to me that I've been allowed to be in the same room, much less allowed to be in the same scene. It's a pretty amazing life.
You hold your own, man. There's just
Thanks, I appreciate it.
yeah, you absolutely hold your own. And again, looking forward to anything you have coming out. Really looking forward to Supernatural and what comes up with this. I hope, I know that whatever, the guys are going to put together, it's going to be amazing regardless, but given the challenge, right, they'll take it head on and I'm sure, present the fans with everything they're going to want. I just don't doubt that in any.
I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I haven't seen the script, so I don't know exactly what we're doing, but
yeah,
it's the final episode, and these guys I don't think have ever let the audience down yet. So I think they're gonna go out with a firecracker.
I agree. Any plans on maybe getting on Walker, Texas Ranger?
I don't know. Depends on how much Jared likes me.
You got
we've been working together for 15 years. He may be sick of me. I don't know.
You watch. I bet you get a call.
Put it this way: he's a great guy. I love him dearly, like a brother, and it wouldn't surprise me if I got a call. But I also know how the business works, and I know that just because you're the lead on a series doesn't mean you call the shots. I never hold it against an actor who's on a show if I don't ever get to do his show.
Sure.
Because I know it goes beyond him or her. But who knows? I wouldn't be surprised. And if I do, it looks like it'd be a chance to go to Austin.
Yep, that's right. That's right. And then I'm going to be hitting you up, Jim. I remember that guy. Remember Eejit? Remember me?
You're the guy with the food, so I'll be hitting you up.
There you go. I'll cook. I will cook. I'll cook for everybody. I know all the good chefs here in town, too. We'll make it happen. We'll entice people with food. I do that all the time. It works.
Sounds cool, man.
Sounds
cool.
Jim, I'm really excited for you again, and my best of luck on your trip and going and staying in quarantine, and hopefully that couch and the movie channel's there for you, and you get through it all. So my best to you, and again, thank you so much for taking the time, and just my best to your family and you guys during this time.
Thanks, And the same to you. Thanks for having me on. It's been great.
Thank you so much, Jim. Really appreciate it. Have a good rest of the night, and we'll talk soon, brother.
Okay, man. Be well.
The Lone Star Plate podcast is produced by Texas Real Food. Go to texasrealfood.com and you can search your city for stores, butchers, restaurants, farmers markets, and more who are using fresh, artisanal, organic sources. It's a fun site that brings all natural options all together. I hope you enjoyed this episode. For more information, go to thelonestarplate.com. I'm your host, Patrick Scott Armstrong. Until next time.